Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast and bringing the best in the industries. And I have got on this kick lately of bringing people to you who are from either Australia, South Africa, or the UK. So it's up to you to kind of determine who and where they're from unless they tell you. It's kind of a game. Or you look at their, you have to look at their bio, right? Because if you don't know the intricacies of their accents, then you'll just never know. But yeah, so today we're going to have Nathan Simmonds on, and he is a leadership coach, trainer, consultant, soon to be author, and just absolutely incredible, an individual dedicated to others, really connecting to their purpose. And that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to have him on here is to focus on how are you as an individual connecting to your purpose, your legacy, and then what are you doing to design your life around your legacy rather than making your life fit around your day job or your work. So, and that's what we're going to have him talk about here. And I'm just super excited to be able to have this conversation. Nathan, if you don't mind, go ahead and give us a little bit of backstory as far as where you came from, how you grew up, and why you're so passionate about what you're doing right now.
Samuel, thank you. I was so excited with having the conversation with you because Fuel Your Legacy just resonated so strongly with me. And I had to be here to share some of this content. The story for me is, I would say, pretty much an average life. You know, the beginning part was my parents lived in austere times. I grew up through the 80s, went to school in the 90s. My parents were both kind of working middle class people. My father was a police officer. And I was a very active child. And my dad showed us how to do lots of different things, kind of, building things, how to put shelves up, how to paint, and all these sorts of things. And he taught us, how to get hands-on with life. But what I found was, as I started to grow up, I went to secondary school, high school for you guys, and that's where things started to really fall down for me, because that active child that learned through seeing and doing fell short, and it broke me. The system broke me through a system of repeat or, sit and repeat to get your qualifications. And that's where everything started to shift for me. So I felt as I was in high school, secondary school, that I had a purpose, but I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know how to express it clearly. So all that pent-up frustration of being a young teenager, of being in an environment that didn't fit me, of being asked to live up to someone else's expectation, all those frustrations erupted into, toxic behaviors. When I was around 13, 14, I started to be bullied by a group of boys, older boys from another school, and not knowing what to do that with those emotions, to do with that pain, I then learned that you have to hurt other people in order to compensate. Later on, more recently, I heard a quote from, I think it's Dr. Sandra Wilson, hurt people, and that's what I was doing, but I never dealt with the problem. As I then progressed out of school, went into work, my father was always asking me, what are you going to do, what are you going to be? He wasn't a coach. He wasn't, he was a police officer. And that was the extent of his questioning. What are you going to do? What are you going to be? Trying to push me to think further, but not giving me any more depth of thought around that. And then that frustration, I don't know what I want to be. And he was asking me this question for about 15, 16. I didn't know what I wanted to be, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I had a purpose. I just didn't know how to tap into it or what I would amount to. So I went through the motions. And I've listened to some of your previous guests about leadership and the leaders in their environment. And that's what I started doing. I started getting into management roles at 19 years old. I'd look for pay rises. I'd move to another company. I'd try and develop myself up. Always looking for that certainty and security that my parents both wanted so desperately for me to have and my brother to have that they didn't have. And when they were growing up and bought their first house, at one point their mortgages jumped to nearly 20%. Incredibly hard times. And they wanted us to have the best, because no parent in their right mind wants their children to be equal to or less than them. And they wanted to see us succeed, and they wanted to see us have that security, work hard, retire, and be comfortable. But that never, ever felt right to me. And there was always this internal friction, but I didn't know how to direct it. So the bullying that I never dealt with, going into work, into jobs that just didn't feel quite right, didn't really kind of align to my ethics. These emotions were bottled up and trapped inside. And then eventually what happened was, at the age of 24, I can only describe and tell you, had you seen me, you would have done one of two things. You would have either pulled it away in absolute disgust of what you were seeing because of the mess I was, or you would have called me an ambulance because you knew that I'd overdosed on recreational drugs. All these pent-up frustrations over the years from going to school, being made to fit in, or feeling like I was forced to fit in, doing jobs that never felt quite right, never knowing who I was, never feeling comfortable in my own skin because there was more for me to give, came to that cataclysmic moment of me lying on a sofa in that state, standing on the edge of a metaphorical precipice, looking over the edge and having to make a decision what I was going to do with my life. And again, that sense of purpose came up. I can either continue down this road, I'll either be dead or in prison, or I can step back and I can go and do something about this. And that was the choice I made. But life gives you repeated lessons. And there's some other parts of this story. I've stepped back from this a few weeks later, making the decision to stop doing those sorts of things at that point in time. 6 weeks later, I bump into the lady that is now my wife. I made some serious decisions. I moved to Amsterdam, where she's English, but she had moved there already, or was planning to move there, sorry. I ended up living there with her for 4 years in Amsterdam. And I took all those leadership skills that I'd developed and taken on board. And actually, and it sounds pretty salubrious, it was a great job at the time. Ended up managing the customer services for Time and Fortune magazine and National Geographic for the European customer base here in Europe and Asia. I think the international database, not the American clients. So I did that for a few months while I was here cutting my teeth as a leader in a larger business. Then returned home. Wasn't completely sure what I was doing again. With my Anna and myself returned, not yet married, making a decision. We wanted to start a family. We wanted to be nearer our family so that we could build the relationships between grandparents and grandchildren to be. But again, I got lost in the corporate environment. I got lost in kind of the expectations. And I went, doing jobs for that security, for, this structure. But again, it didn't feel right. I was working in the finance sector, frontline banks, became a bank manager, then moving into car insurance. And there's very few financial businesses out there where that's actually about the people. It still remains to be about the numbers. And again, these ethics and these principles just didn't fit with me. And these frustrations started to boil to the surface. And I was getting into arguments with my leaders because I didn't agree with what they were saying to me. I then encountered bullying, workplace bullying, because of the bullying that I never dealt with as a child at school. Just came back to rear its head again in a work environment. And I was looking around the office, lamenting quite vocally at times about the situation, about the lack of leadership, about the lack of skills, about the lack of support that people were supposed to be getting. They were saying great things, but the action, the audio and the video didn't sync up. And eventually I got to a point where I can either sit here pointing my finger at everybody else, or I can start pointing my finger where I want to go and where I want to take people. And a phrase I heard a couple of years ago complaining is the glue that keeps you stuck to your circumstance. And all the time you're doing it, all the time that you're complaining, you cannot activate solutional thinking. You cannot come up with new ideas while you're busy pointing your finger at other people and saying that they're the problem, rather than saying, do you know what? I've got something. I can do this. The next lesson that came up is the thing that you lack is the thing that you're meant to give. And at that point, there was a level of friction, a level of tension came up, a level of intention came up in that. My daughter was about to arrive. I'm around 35, 36 years old. I stumbled across Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle, how great leaders inspire, action, all at the same time. Daughter about to arrive within 24 hours. Simon Sinek, boom. What is my purpose? Here is a model and a framework that I can build into. And from there, it's been focused drive to understand my purpose, which I now have absolute clarity on. Help other people understand and articulate their purpose as well. Inside that, I've gone and got my qualifications in leadership coaching, started to deliver leadership content to individuals and help them upgrade their skills. And then get really deep on what I bring and how I bring it. So the part in your title around fuel your legacy, I then came up with these 3 pillars of the purpose, the goals, and the legacy. So the purpose is you at your genetic best. It's what you're born with. There is something about you that you are born with that is hardwired into your genetics at the moment of conception. And you bring that in every single activity, whether you realize it or not. So your purpose is never unknown. It's either unclear, unfocused, or unstructured. When we get into that, when you go back and do the analytics and say, okay, well, what did I do in this situation or this situation? You will always find a core behavior, an action that you always take. And what's the phrase? You never rise to the expectation. You always fall back to the level of training. And regardless of what happens, whether it's good or bad, you will fall back to that core principle of who you are, and you will bring that every single time. So when you go back and do the analytics and you get really clear on it and you get really focused with it and you get really structured with it, you can then implement that in every single conversation going forward, every single relationship, every single project. Who am I when I'm at my best, at my genetic best? Who am I bringing to this conversation? Okay, what am I going to put into this conversation? So you start to create, the future. So that's the purpose side. And then what we do is we start to build goals that are designed from that purpose, because your goals are a physical manifestation of you at your fundamental best. Big, incredible, staggering, awe-inspiring goals. The biggest possible manifestation of you at your most best, having a huge impact on civilization as a whole. And then the legacy part is the daily activity, the ripple effect, the 7 generations before you that you're going to impact through the work that you're doing, and living at your fullest potential and extracting the gold and the wisdom and the pearls of lessons and value in the people that you meet on a daily basis, on the failures that you have and how you rejoice in them and how you bring that back full circle, about living in that purpose, creating the goals, and then working on that on a daily basis to fuel your legacy. And that's concepts I've come up with. Why does this? So for me, the part that really kind of started to lock this into place with me is understanding these 4 stages of work. The 4 stages of work, when you bring this to life, is the work that you're taught to do, the work that you're told to do, meaningful work and purposeful work. So when I reflected back over my life, I saw these 4 stages really clearly. Why? Stage 1 is the work that you're taught to do. This is what school is doing for us. It's teaching us to go to work. It's an outdated factory model to create factory workers. Post-industrial revolution. Except the concept, the workspace we live in now is more intellectual, more creative, not so much work-orientated. As AI comes in, these roles and responsibilities are going to massively dwindle and disappear in time, because it won't be us doing it. So what they're teaching us to do is turn up on time, do as we're told, and live up to someone else's expectation. Then when someone starts asking you a question like my wonderful father did, what are you going to do? What are you going to be? That frustration starts to kick in. Of, okay, actually, maybe there's more than this. Maybe there's something outside of this box. That concept of I have a purpose, there's something bigger than me, there's something bigger I need to be giving was already there. He was just fueling it with these core questions. So at around about 15 for me, my mindset shifted to the work that you're told to do. And my question in any of my leadership development programs when I'm talking about feedback or coaching, who likes being told what to do? No one. When we have the work that we're told to do, what happens is we have, symptoms that come up, frustrations, agitation, conversations boil over. Why? Because people can't see what you can see and you can't see what they can see. And the connections just start to break down. Why? Because you're always frustrated and always angry. Then when you learn the fresh questions, as in leadership development, coaching skills, a mentor comes to you and starts asking you questions, you can then shift from the work that you're told to do to meaningful work. And for me, there is a difference between meaningful and purposeful. Meaningful is something that is full of meaning to you as an individual. You can spend time doing it all day. You will find excuses to do it. But there's a level of selfishness that sits inside it. It's not about someone else. Yes, you're good at what you do. Yes, you enjoy it. And yes, you can lose yourself in it for hours on end. And it makes you happy and you can go home happy about it. It's still only about you. We then have to take it up a level, and this is where it comes back to that purpose piece. Purposeful work is where we need to be aiming ourselves. Purposeful work is something that is full of meaning to me, but is full of purpose to the other person. I'm doing it as a servant leader. Now, when I talk to people about leadership and they go, they're a team leader or operational leader, whatever, what comes first? The team, the operation. Your team does not work for you. You work for your team. You are an enabler for them to be the best possible versions of themselves, to clear any obstacles so they can go and deliver exceptional work and deliver exceptional results for themselves, so that in return you get something out of the back of it. As a side effect, you are successful because they are successful, not the other way around. If you don't get this concept right as a leader, you won't have a team very long. And if you haven't got a team, you've got no one to lead. This is where it comes in with the legacies. Okay, what am I giving to these people? My work family, who I work for, these people, so that they can go and do their version of incredible. So when we move into purposeful work, it's about the other person. It's about contribution. It's about giving. It's about elevating others. For me, this is the stuff that I now share from these experiences of being bullied, of reckless, toxic behaviors that I didn't know what to do with because of my frustrations and the lid that I was attempting to keep on things. The way that I thought about things before I took that kind of that twist on the viewpoint and looked at it from a different angle and got that new concept of, actually, this is what I can be doing. This is what I can be giving. This is how I can help other people. And now from there, I've gone from the corporate environment. I've moved out of a full-time job. And I've now moved into a part-time job, which actually pays me more than my full-time job, doing what I love doing, which is delivering leadership content to people, going into other organizations and teaching their leaders how to be more incredible than yesterday so they can get better results for their people. So when you talk about helping other individuals move out of their roles, out of their expectations and obligations, that contractual confinement that we often feel in the corporate life, there is a way through it. And part of that is about tapping into your purpose, about understanding who you are at your fundamental best, working out the things that you enjoy doing, the things that excite you, and then ratcheting them up. They talk about gap analyses, mark yourself between 1 and 10, 1 being rubbish, 10 being great on these certain things. Well, find the things that you're a 10 out of 10 on for skill set, and then rate them on a level of excitement of, are you a 10 out of 10 on excitement? And if you are, go and make those things that are 10 out of 10, make them a 12 out of 10. Make yourself a specialist, make yourself an expert, make yourself sought after, because you are so awesome that you cannot be ignored. And people will pay you incredibly large amounts of money for less hours so that you can spend more time building high quality relationships with the individuals that are actually important to you. So there are ways through when you tap into that purposeful work and start giving it to people, you will become of more value and you will raise your status in the arena, and more people will ask to lift you up or will look to lift you up so that you can go and do greater work in that space.
Yeah, I love that. So, I mean, there's so much there. I'm not going to be able to go back and cover all of it, but I do want to tear into some of these things. And when I say tear, it's an exciting thing, not a bad thing. But
I'm good.
there's so many different angles that we could take this show with your history, and where you've been. Because what's funny is you can research people, you can look at them on their social media, their stuff like that, and there's certain stories you just don't ever hear until you talk one on one. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for being able to hear some of these things and pull them out. We actually are maybe surprisingly similar in the area of, and I would not just say you and I, but a lot of the people that I have interviewed, we have a level of where we felt like, or we experienced a situation in our younger years of bullying, of where we were kind of bullied or cornered or forced into a certain perspective that we didn't agree with or feel in alignment to, and that happens for various reasons. It's always an interesting thing. There's the story of Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
He got sent home from school with a note for his mom, and in the note it basically said, "Your son is too dumb to be in our class. He needs to be taken to a specialty school or something, or taught at home." And when his mom read that, rather than telling him that that's what the note said, she said, "Hey, look, you are just too smart for the teachers and for everybody at school, so we're going to teach you at home." Right? And so it's all about framing and perspective when it comes to that. But it does happen often where we feel forced into something where we don't feel fulfilled. And then as a result, we have this almost dimming of our purpose or our true light. And for Nathan, he mentioned that it went into drugs, went into different other areas to kind of numb the pain of lack of fulfillment.
Mm.
And it's just such a fascinating thing. I think if everybody listening to this really took a hard look at themselves and said, what am I using to numb the pain of lack of fulfillment? It could be Netflix, it could be food, it could be travel. I mean, it could be so many different things. It could be a relationship to numb the pain of not fulfilling your dreams or not fulfilling your full extent of your being through creation. There's so many different areas that you might be using right now to numb the pain of your life or numb the pain of your lack of fulfillment. And it's so crucial to really identify what that is, and not only identify how you're numbing it, but then go and identify, well, what aligns with me? Do you remember in the beginning of when he was saying everything was core values, right? Like, it didn't align with who I was. It didn't feel right. My stomach was always in knots. I wasn't quite right. Doesn't mean he wasn't being successful. You can have lots of money. You can be very financially successful and not fulfilled.
Mm.
How many of the people that you're coaching right now, Nathan, do you think are in that position where it's not that they're not successful by worldly standards, but they just flat out aren't fulfilled in what they're doing?
So I think there's a lot of things that come out of the schooling situation, and it's not school bashing, it's reporting. It's a situation. It breeds a level of uniformity and conformity. When we go into the corporate space, you're looking around and probably 98% of the people are doing the same thing. And I'd say probably 100% of the people of those 98% are sitting there in their own heads at some point thinking, is it just me? Am I just the problem? There must be more than this. There must be more to this life. It can't just be this. But some of them, to different levels, are holding that down or not responding or not answering that call. Because, as I said, your purpose is always in there. Whether it's a quiet whisper or it's a screaming banshee, demanding you to take action on it, demanding that you do that. So when people come to me for coaching, it's because they are frustrated. It's because they have hit that kind of glass ceiling in their own head, because someone that they feel frustrated that other people aren't seeing that in them. They haven't got a leader above them that is able to support them in a way to help them develop up. So when they come to speak to me, it's because they want clear talking. They want clear words that are going to help them get to where they need to be in their own headspace, so they can then take the action and go to the job interview or rewrite the resume or redesign the goal according to them, rather than living up to someone else's expectation, rather than staying quiet because maybe they think the other kids in the classroom might make fun of them for having big goals. Maybe, and it, you know, we so many people are wandering around and they're still actually just a trapped child. They are still the child that they were when they were 13, 14 years old, being picked on in a playground somewhere or behaving in that way, but actually they're in the body of a 45-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's interesting about what you had mentioned about the bullying. If you don't take care of those issues that you experienced when you were younger, especially the highly emotional experiences, they have a way of resurfacing in the future. And some people think, man, this is so terrible. Why is this happening again? For me, I tend to look at life as an opportunity to learn and grow. And I'm grateful that if I didn't learn a lesson the first time, that it's going to resurface in my life in another area so that I can learn that lesson. Right? It would be a shame if every time you fail something that you only get to try that once. You only get to try one area of personal development once. And if you fail to develop yourself that one time, then you don't ever get the opportunity to change that in your life again. That would be really unfortunate. So I'm so grateful in my life that these issues, these things that do offend us, they do resurface in our lives so that we can have an opportunity to really understand how to move past them.
Mm. So the way that I look at it is, I look at life like a computer game. Now, if you bought a computer game and the first level was so ridiculously hard that you could not get past it, and then the game got easier as the game progressed, how many copies of that game would actually get sold?
None.
Not many. So your life challenges, the things, you know, your traumatic experiences, those certain events, okay, that gratitude that helps you to learn from it, it's not about making life easier. It's about making sure you do learn the lessons so that you can move forward with it faster. Because like the computer game, when you're looking at certain strategy games or whatever, when you're playing them, when that character dies, it goes back. It respawns the game in a slightly different way. So you still have the same challenge, but you have it from a different angle. And this analogy is in the sense of, okay, well, actually, I didn't learn this lesson in this relationship with this partner, but I'm going to go and have the same relationship with a different partner. And that's just life giving you back the situation that you haven't, the lesson that you haven't learned yet, so that you actually can learn from it and then move it forward. Mm-hmm. But then that brought me back into the thinking that if people are just sitting at work, just going through the motions, what do they complain about on a daily basis? When you're looking in those corporate spaces, they go and complain about exactly the same thing over and over and over and over again. They never go and look for the solution. They then talk about the numbing element that you talked about, because energy doesn't disappear, it just gets redirected. How do we redirect it? Smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, working for the weekend. There are socially and there are socially acceptable and unacceptable ways of doing this. Drinking too much coffee, socially acceptable. Now in the modern age, sitting on the toilet, checking social media is socially acceptable. Why? Because you're being social. So these are the clear indicators that there is actually a problem. Now, I had 2 incidences happen in the last kind of 6 months. I actually went to push the cubicle door in a men's toilets open. The guy hadn't locked the toilet door. Thankfully, for me, he was actually sitting on top of the toilet lid, still with his trousers up, checking social media. He'd forgotten to lock the door. So he wasn't even using the toilet. He was actually hiding in the toilet, checking his social media. That tells me there's a problem. Yeah, that's a flag. But it's now got to a point, though, Well, I'll be sitting in my cubicle actually using the toilet, and the person next to me doesn't even turn the volume down on their phone when the video comes up on Facebook now. So they're not even hiding it. So there's all these little flags going up, but it's socially acceptable to do this. Why? Because everybody else is doing it. You have that law of conformity kicks in, but actually no one's picking up. Okay, what's the reason this person actually wants to go and hide from his work and sit on a toilet and check his Instagram? Why? Because he hasn't got a purpose, because he's not engaged with what he's doing, because it's not aligned to his value and what he's designed to bring from the inside out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. In fact, one of the speeches that I would give to a corporate, in a more corporate setting, to managers or business owners, maybe at a Rotary Club or something, is about redefining the SMART goals and turning them into something exciting. And so I actually, when I give that speech, I started out by talking about having a sexual affair. Like if you're married and you're having a sexual affair, right? How terrible is that? Why is this happening? Like, what are the symptoms of this? And then I relate that to any company, individual manager, business owner who has not made their vision, purpose. I mean, I love what you said, their purpose, their goals, and their legacy. If they haven't put that in a way that's so sexy that it's holding somebody else's attention, then their employees are cheating on them. If they haven't made that goal so massive that it demands attention, it demands focus, it demands these things, then they're not getting there. And then is it remarkable? Like, well, first, is it audacious? Is it creating separation? Are you, with what you're doing, like Tesla? I don't know if you saw over the last few months, but Tesla's new truck that's coming out.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, Google it, right, if you haven't seen it. But it's a funny looking truck, right? But it's going to create separation. Same thing by putting a Tesla car orbiting the planet. For no other reason, it's an audacious move that's creating separation from the people who like Tesla and the people who don't like Tesla. And he's doing something remarkable so that other people are going to talk about it. And then lastly is transparency. Are you willing to tell everybody what your goals are to hold you accountable? Tell the world about them, shout it from the rooftops. And if you're not doing that, then your people are literally cheating on you. And they could. I've never really thought of it this way, but now this is I'm going to have to add this into my speech. But they aren't just cheating on you with their own dreams. There's probably a small percentage of people cheating on you with their own dreams. Probably most people are cheating on you with sedation, which would be social media, drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, whatever it is. They're sedating themselves rather than getting excited and doing and being part of a contribution or being part of a movement. So that's really fascinating to think about it that way. I'm grateful for that comment.
You sent me my brain in a couple of different directions here. You said SMART goals, you said about this. So the important thing for me when you get to those goals is understanding that your goals have to be magnetic. They have to have a polarity, as a charge to them. So when you look at lightning coming down from the sky, they're not random strikes. That it's the planet actually sends up an electrical charge itself that pulls the lightning to that point. And your goals have to be the same. They have to energize you. They have to emotion. Like when you say them, when I sit in my goal and I visualize that thing, there are times that I break down and cry because it just fills me with so much joy. And not many people have that experience. What they have is, here's someone else's agenda, here's someone else's goal. Can you go and help me climb my mountain? And then when you get to the top of that mountain, you're like, well, what was that all about? It's not my mountain. So you've got to, as a leader and as an employee, okay, the organization is going to have its goal. Great, fantastic. Does my goal align with the goal of the business? By me helping the business, does it help me achieve my goal? Therefore, I'm not giving up on my goal. We're working in conjunction and parallel to each other. And at the right time, when I need to leave because I achieve mine or it goes separate, it's an amicable agreement and we go in two different directions, rather than the mental health challenges that go with that, or the toxic behaviors, or the frustrations that then turn into kind of people getting fired. You've got to have that clarity as an individual. The words you use, SMART goals. I learned this a few years ago, and I share this with people now, and I teach people to have smart objectives, not smart goals. And the difference is, so the moment you make your goal smart in the way that I understand it, is because it's a specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. That's your normal SMART goal.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment you're saying it's real, it already exists. There is no tension there. There is no challenge to go and make that thing happen because it's already in your realm of possibility.
Exactly.
Because it's not about achieving the goal, it's about the person that you have to become in order to make the goal a reality. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And I'm going to, there's several cliches in there that we see on multiple means, but it's so true. So the moment that you make your goals smart, what you do is you make them small, mediocre, average, repetitive, and time wasting.
That's a new one.
So then when we take that back and we go, okay, how big's this goal? And people are going to give you a hard time. People are going to point at you. People are going to say, who the hell do you think you are for doing that? They're going to laugh at you. And as that other meme that says, you keep doing it and then you get so good at it that they want to come and work for you to make it happen. So my goal right now, and I came up with this goal 3 years ago when I started to get this real clarity, is to positively and successfully influence the growth and development of over 100 million people through my one-to-one coaching and group training, so that they are connected to a deeper sense of purpose, are creating compelling goals, are connecting to the people around them, and creating a positive legacy time and time again. What they say to people, this part is, what they say to people is, don't tell everybody your goal, or don't tell anybody your goals. And I say to people, tell the right people your goals. Because there have been people that I've told and they've looked at me and they've literally said, who the F do you think you are to think that you can impact 100 million people? Do you know what? I'm an average middle-aged man that has made a decision to go and do extraordinary things to help 100 million people so they can become more incredible than yesterday. Mm-hmm. And if a couple more people on this planet make decisions like that, and even if I fall short of 100 million people and I only get to 50 million, will the world be a better place? If I died tomorrow and I only got to one person, would the world be a better place? Yes, because I was striving for a goal that is part of that legacy. I'm chasing my potential, not just chasing my passion.
Yeah, absolutely. So along the lines of that, how do you, or tell me the story of your biggest naysayer in your life and how you learned to silence them in your own mind and just go for what you wanted to do.
Wow. And you know what? There's been a lot of them, but that comes from the education of when I was a child, not from my parents, but from the school, from the people that I call my so-called friends when I was going through these toxic behaviours in my late teens. I remember one. This is one of the best stories. I said, I'm going to write a book of my life. I was 19. I was like, yeah, full of my own bravado. And he says to me, it's not interesting. Your life is pretty boring. No one's going to read it. So I never wrote the book. What not a lot of people know yet about me, and they will do in future books that I bring to publish, is I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 9 years old. I was hospitalized for nearly a year. I had multiple operations. We didn't have Google then, so you couldn't do your Google search to find out cures for it. I had my mum, and we had a local health food shop. With the information that my mum got from that health food shop and the treatments that we went through, I cured Crohn's. Now, there are still 99% of the doctors on this world, on this planet, still saying that Crohn's is not curable. Now, had I written that story at the age of 2021, 20 years ago, how many people would I have potentially helped to overcome that debilitating disease that they believe they're stuck with because their doctor tells them they are?
Right.
But it wasn't until, crikey, 3 years ago that I made the decision. There's some stuff in here that I'm learning. There's some stuff that I'm learning about leadership, about approaches to life, about the ways that I set my goals, about the stuff that I've taught other people to see them succeed. Do you know what? I need to put this in paper now. I need to type this stuff down. I need to get lyrical, type this out, find a format to share it, and just share this stuff with people. Because even, like I said, even if it got to one person and it fundamentally changes that person's life, that one person, Has my life been worth living? Yes. But to not do it and to keep it inside me, and now I'm seeing more of that transition in my thinking over the last 3, 4, 5, 8 years. I'm now bringing more of this content out. I'm getting more out of my own way, because that voice of the critic in my head isn't actually my voice. It's all the people that told me not to publish the book at 19. It's all the people that told me, oh, you'll never amount to anything. It's all the people that thought, the teachers that I perceived thought that I wouldn't excel when I left school. But as we know from the Roosevelt speech, I think it is, it is the voice of the critic. But we also know that the voice of the critic is standing up or is sitting out in the benches. He's not in the arena. I am in the arena. You people that are listening to this are in the arena. The people that are telling you can't, they're telling you what they can't to do based on their map of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly. I think that's probably for me one of the biggest lessons that I've had to learn over my life is just keeping in perspective why somebody would choose to squash somebody else's dream, and on the same token, why would I, as an individual, choose to squash somebody else's dream? Not just flippantly or not thinking about it. Why is that something that I feel I should be doing or even giving input on? All I should do ever is potentially give some guidance of how they could better do it. But if I don't have a solution that could potentially help them succeed better, faster, quicker on a bigger scale, then I should probably just keep my mouth shut. And I've had to learn that gradually over time, and it's been difficult because we all think we know what we're talking about. Even though it doesn't always happen to be that way. So I'm curious for you, what do you feel like is one of your, if you were to focus on like one specific habit, mindset, or behavior that you've used to create your meaningful legacy, what would that be? And then how could we adopt it into our lives?
Wow. I've got a few that have dropped into my head, but the one I want to go back to is the goal setting piece. And this, a mentor of mine taught me this 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And this was in a free webinar. His name is Peter Sage. And one of the things he taught me was, if you know how to achieve your goal when you set it, it's too small. And in doing so, you're setting it from a place of fear. You're setting it from inside your comfort zone. So every time that you look at your goal or you're reading your goal out, ask the question, if this conversation were to stop right now with me, with you, with whoever, would I know how to achieve my goal? And if you come up with kind of 2 or 3 actions, if I get an interview, if I do a bit of that, you know how to achieve your goal. It's too small. Double it, triple it, make it bigger. Whatever it is you need to do to create that level of tension that's going to push you outside of your known comfort. We don't go to the gym of life to lift lighter weights. We go out there to pump heavier weights. You start at 5, you go to 10, and then you go to your 20 plates to build the right muscles to do what you need to do. And it's the same with our goals. So one of the habits that helps to really build the thinking, do I know how to achieve this goal? Yes, no. The answer is yes, make it bigger. How many people do I need to impact in order to create that? And start looking at those numbers. Start to get to that point where it does feel uncomfortable. And then when you read your goal out for the first time and you stutter when you say it, or you start to question yourself, or actually tell a lie, you don't start to question yourself. The voice of the critics that you've learned to listen to in your own head starts to question you. That's when you know you're in the right ballpark of the goal that you need to be playing into, because you have that discomfort, you have that irritation that you can then use as the energy to propel you forward to create the impact that you're actually designed to create at a visceral level.
Yeah, I like that. Like just asking yourself when, like it's not big enough until the voices in my head start to question it, and then at that point, I'm on the right track. No, I think that's a fantastic question to ask yourself, because I've dealt with the question of like, if I know how to do it, then it's not big enough, and I've kind of stopped there. But I don't think I've gone personally with my goals to the point where it's like, okay, everybody in my life is questioning whether this is possible. I don't think I've set any goals that are that big. All the goals are I have no idea how to accomplish them, but I know they're conceivable because I know other people have accomplished them. But I still have zero idea how I'm going to accomplish them. But that's different than something that's such a big goal that everybody would be like, "What? That's not possible." Right?
Yeah.
Like putting a man on the moon. That's not possible, right? Or something like that. Carving Mount Rushmore. It's like these goals are so big that anybody who hears it, not just a few people, but 99% of the population, when they hear it, they're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. There's no way. That's not possible yet, you know? And we're getting into with AI, you mentioned earlier, with AI, that's what's possible is exploding at an exponential rate for sure.
Exactly that.
It's growing fast. So I'm curious, Nathan, if we wanted to get more of your content, where are your books? Where are your, I mean, do you have your own podcast, social media? Where's the best place to connect with you? I imagine you serve people all over the world. But where's the best place to connect with you and get more of your insight on these things and how to silence the fear or naysayers in our own lives?
So first thing's coming out in January the 20th, 2020, book number 1 of my self-help trilogy, The Art of Fulfillment, is coming out. That's called Stop Working, Start Living. That's going to happen on the 20th of January. Will be available on Amazon. I'm having a bit of a refurb of my current stuff at the moment. I've just been on a 2-day seminar and I got to hear Tom Bilyeu speaking. I've seen some stuff around my work and how I can actually impact more people. So the best place to get hold of me right now is on LinkedIn, while I'm doing a complete restructure of my thinking and how I can get to more people and create more impact and challenge more people's thinking so they can become more incredible than yesterday. So find me on LinkedIn, Nathan Simmonds, leadership coach. You'll find me there. Handsome chap, nice beard. Send me a direct message. I would love to connect with you. Yeah, it's all about helping leaders out there double their income or half their work week so they can build quality time and spend it with quality people. That's what I'm all about now.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, this whole thing is exactly, again, every guest I have on or have had on for the last few months, I feel like I've been able to handpick them a lot more. The first year of my podcast, loved all my guests there, but it was a lot more focused on what I was doing, because I was using my podcast as a way to build content for books that I'm writing, and so it was more me focused, I think. and over the last probably 4 or 5 months, I've really shifted and said, how can I get more people on here that are going to further the conversation of fuel your legacy and challenge me as an individual and challenge me and help me grow, and that I'm learning from, rather than people that I think I'm on the same level with. How am I getting more people that are challenging the way I view the world and think? And that has definitely come to pass. So for this next section here, it's legacy on rapid fire. I'm sure you've heard this in some of the previous episodes. So it's just 5 questions. We're going to go through them as fast as possible. You ready?
Bring it.
Awesome. What do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy?
Me. That's it. So now that I've got clarity on me and what I'm bringing to the world, all I need now to do is implement and take the information and put it in place.
Okay. Awesome. What do you think the hardest thing you've ever accomplished has been?
Actually saying to myself that I'm going to start my own business and following through on that.
Fantastic. And what's your greatest success to this point in your life?
To this point in my life, crikey, I've got numerous clients that are doing phenomenal things. One of them has just doubled his salary and got promoted, and is going to have a huge impact on the American educational system.
That's awesome. No, I love that.
Yeah.
What's another secret that you believe contributes to your success?
Enjoying failure and questioning the living daylights out of it until I find a valuable lesson that I can then grow from.
Best skill in the world, according to me. I'm creating a whole journal that actually is completely focused on that. You should be able to buy it on Amazon. but yeah, it's absolutely focused on that. You can also get it in my website, but it's focused on reframing experiences that we have, good and bad, and pulling lessons out of them. That's the whole purpose and focus of the journal, is how do we reframe an experience and pull a lesson out of it. So I love that that's a secret of yours. And what are one or two or maybe three books that you think would be fantastic for the Fuel Your Legacy audience to read?
Start with why, Simon Sinek, straight up. Um, Think and Grow Rich. I'm looking furiously around my office right now. Think and Grow Rich is definitely a good one. And it's going to be either How to Get Rich by Felix Dennis, which is phenomenal, or Stealing Fire, because that's fundamentally shifted my thinking about how I approach life.
Yes, all good books. I was on a kick for about a year and a half, 2 years. I read a book a week.
Wow.
And it was a lot of reading. It was listening. I listened to them on Audible. But some weeks for shorter books, I would do 2 or 3 a week, and it's a lot of content in. So now it's like, I don't remember where I picked this up from, but it's in a book somewhere, and it's really good information.
Yeah, I've got a disclaimer at the end of my book that says if I've quoted anything here that is not mine, please let me know so I can actually go back and reference the author and the owner accordingly.
That's a good idea. I should throw that in mine too, because it's a legit thing. Like where you just, especially if you're consuming that much content over and over and over and over, you don't even remember where you started living your life by certain things. You just started living your life that way, and it just seems as though your voice has told it to yourself so often that you believe it's you saying it to you, even though it's from somebody else.
Exactly that.
So,
exactly.
And I would say that's where you want to get to, because there's good voices in your head and the bad voices in your head. And I think they're both, I say good and bad, they're both there to serve a purpose. And you want to be programming what voices in your head that you listen to the most.
Exactly. And if you spend time in the company of, even fictitious characters, like I've got Gandalf on my bookshelf, I've got Bruce Lee on my bookshelf. If you spend time having conversations with those people, even made up imaginary conversations, like in the mastermind principle of Think and Grow Rich, you will start to kind of have more thoughts like that individual. And potentially what you're writing will come out in a certain kind of esque way of that individual. Mm-hmm. So it's more likely you're going to repeat stuff that they do share or bring up new ideas in that sort of vein, and it will sound similar too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like he should have said that. Well, he didn't say it. I said it in his gate of speaking. No, okay, so here's my favorite part of the whole episode, right? It's the last question. And if you listen to the end of this podcast on other podcasts, then you know what I'm going to ask, Nathan. But get ready, because if you haven't yet answered this for yourself, please do that. Write it down, share it with your family, share it with people around you, and broadcast this to the world. So we're going to pretend that you've died, Nathan, that you're dead, gone, 6 generations from now. So this is your great, 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 great grandchildren sitting around a table. You get the opportunity to come back and listen into what they're saying and what they're saying about your life, your legacy, your contribution to the world. What do you want them to be saying about you in 200 years from
now? There's a part of me, it depends how old those generations are when they're reading it. So there's part of me that almost wants them to disbelieve what I'm saying. There's a part of me that wants them to read that book and say, what is this guy going on about? And then there's that other part of me that then wants them to go and live their lives and have those experiences and realize, and then go back and go, now I get it. Now I know what my purpose is. Now I know what the impact is I can have on the world, because I've gone away and got these experiences. I've had some self-doubt. I've had some disbelief, and I've gone away and tested it. I've developed it. And now I'm going to go and deliver something even more incredible than he did 6 generations ago. And I'm going to expand his idea and create an even bigger impact at a galactic level, let alone at a global level. Yeah,
because in 6 generations from now, we could be in a galactic universe.
It could well be starting to be a thing.
Yeah, you never know. It's moving fast. That's awesome. I love that, because I think that's exactly in alignment with who you are. Your goal is to help other people identify their legacy and forward that and their purpose, and really get in touch with that. And that is very much mine as well. Mine, put into one sentence, is to empower people with the financial confidence to create a meaningful legacy for them. Right. Nice. So very similar. Mine is maybe just focused slightly more on the financial side of how to fuel the legacy that they want to build. But I love that answer for you, and I'm just so grateful for you taking the time to hop on this podcast and share your knowledge, share your skill set, and share you with us, because we're going to be able to go and go connect with you on LinkedIn and hopefully other social media platforms as well, anywhere that's possible. Buy his book. I'm excited to read his book and see what it is that I can be doing better for myself at.
I'm excited. Thank you, Samuel, so very much for this space. Really appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. We'll catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.